got a user, Bianca McLeod, who, when we were creating their account, we put .org instead of .org, so she didn't get an E. Can we just delete that account and create a new one with the correct email? Ah, awesome. And then will we need to reset her password at that point, or will you do that as
Here we
well?
go. Shoe bubble.
Marshall got Jed Eisel too.
Okay, so there's one more, and I'll email you these names and what needs to be done. But we've got one. Let me ask about this one as well. Jed Eisel. Oh wait, now it's showing up now.
I emailed him earlier,
Oh,
but
okay.
I don't know if I hadn't checked my email yet to see if he got it.
Okay. So Lisa, you might want to reset his password, but it should be working now.
Because earlier when I
Didn't
did
have any.
reset, it told me it wouldn't, not available.
Yeah.
So I'll do it.
Yeah, I think he's available now. Okay, so it was Bianca McLeod, is that who it was? All right, I will email you this name in just a few seconds.
Jed Eisel, do you see him?
Okay.
Jed, did you get an email now?
That's cool. I've got a couple more things to do before we get to this point, so I'll send you that right now. Okay, bye. Okay, so let's email him that one. He said it'll take him about 3 or 4 minutes, and then he'll be able to get her done, and he'll also reset her password.
I got something to cry. I go get it back, man.
I think I may have someone.
I had to ask. I jumped in there. I like Orbit better.
Can't do for you.
All right.
Thank you, sir.
Why are you sitting back there?
So I can help out from the back.
You're not helping.
I am. I'm setting people up, watching them walk in, doing attendance from the back.
Watch him when they get people to speak out.
That's right. That's right.
Somebody got to do it. And it looks good on both screens?
What I neglected to do this morning, we do have lots of brand new faces in the room. And so I apologize on my behalf. I did not introduce our team, so that if you didn't know all of us, I'm Lisa Molinar, the Director of State and District Testing. So I'll be helping anyone in this room on all of the state and district testing, test Hound, anything in that regard. Ty Jones, the face of Edgents. So you see Ty out on your campuses doing work with you and your teachers on how to use Edgents, or if you ever need Edgents help, he will be there. Jamie Payne, his email is James Payne though. If you're emailing him, it's not Jamie. Jamie works on the accountability side. Who's not here is Tina Hernandez, who does all the online assessments for us. She goes under email Augustina Hernandez. She also does all the credit by exams. And then our boss, Missy Rao, she does all the accountability side. So if you need any of us, we're always here to help support you. Most of us overlap. So a lot of you know that if Ty's out on campuses, his phone rings to mine, vice versa. So all of us help each other. So if you need something, please don't hesitate to ask any one of us. But we welcome all the new people, and for those that are returning, we're glad to see you back as well. We're going to go ahead and turn it back over to our host with the mostest from Test Hound.
Testing. All right. Everybody can hear, right? Okay. Okay, let's go back to our test. Of course, if I'm going to do that, I should go to the campus, so give me just one sec. Okay. So, just to bring everybody back to where we were. And by the way, guys, I know we're trying to shoot for 4. I'm actually trying to shoot for before 4 o'clock, so I'm going to do my best to give you the best training that I can give you and the best experience I can provide, and also get you out of here, hopefully in a way that keeps you from getting stuck in all of the dismissal at the end of the day here. So fingers crossed, if everything works well, we should be able to do that. So I'm going to go back to the test really quickly, just kind of refresh everybody's memory. We've already organized it. We've assigned booklets. There is one other thing that I want to show you, and that's the copy feature. So this works really well for 2 situations. If you are at an elementary and you're setting up your math and your reading test, they're in the same booklet. Well, they're not going to be exact copies of each other, but I bet you 80%, maybe even 90% of the organization that you set up for day 1 is going to kind of copy over to day 2. You're going to have to make some changes. But I can get a bunch of that work taken care of you by using this feature. I can take this little spot right here that says copy to, and I can choose my administration, and I can select my test. So if I was doing an elementary math test, I would then also copy over to my reading test. We're just going to pretend right now that that's what we're doing. I would include the room assignments and the booklets. When I submit, it's going to say, hey, wait a minute, are you sure you want to do this? Because once again, when you do this copy feature, if you've already set up stuff in the other test, you can't go back. It won't revert back. So you want to be very deliberate when you make this decision. So I'm just going to click submit because I know that I'm making the right decision. And now I just want to show you that this test is now copied over here. Now, I'm not quite done because some of my children in this test have accommodations in English that didn't have accommodations for math, and vice versa. There's some that didn't and do. So what we're going to need to do is just kind of reorganize. You can go back and you can sort by your accommodations, make sure that you move the kids that need to be in the accommodated settings into those accommodated settings, and then you can look at your students that are not in an accommodated setting and you can move them back to the room that they were originally in. Now, what this also does is it saves you from having to scan those booklets twice, because if they've got the same booklet, it copies over. Now, what about the kids that need a different booklet the second day? Maybe they were accommodated day 1, and on day 2, they're not accommodated. This is simple. They've got a different booklet now. So what you do on day 2's setup is you come in here. We're going to take Kevin, for example. You would just you would select that whole area, delete out that barcode, and watch what happens when I click right here, outside the box. Now that booklet is gone. I can now take his day 2 booklet, I can scan it, and he has the appropriate booklet. Now, that's going to require a little bit of extra work, but it's probably going to be faster than re-scanning every single booklet for every kid. So that would be my recommendation. Now, this is something you can play with, guys. You can practice this as you do your benchmarks this year. Set up your benchmarks in here, and for those of you that, once again, try to keep your benchmarks as close to your actual test as possible, if you get good at this, you can even copy your benchmark over into your test and then make a few changes there. So if you've already done the work, why reproduce it? That's what I'm saying. So just remember, the copy to feature, you can copy over the room assignments, you can copy over which students are in the test, and you can copy the booklets if they have booklets. Now, you're not going to have booklets you scan on a benchmark, but you'll know what to do when you get to an actual test. Let's go now to the fun part. You're like, yay, but we've been having fun all morning, right? No, you haven't. I apologize. Let's look at the reports. This is usually where I might not get a whole lot of ooh-ahs, but at least people go, oh, wait, that actually can help. So all of this work that you've done is now already organized for you in ways that can help you. The first one is going to be the Master Accommodations Report. And I'm going to run that basically the way that it's set up. Let's just generate this report. And let's run it in Excel. Okay. This report is good for a couple of reasons. One, as you can see here, get out of that. Okay. First of all, it's got all of the student information. This report gives me all of the kids that have at least one accommodation in one subject area. And here's the student that we worked with originally. Y'all remember Kevin. He's the one that I put the accommodation in for. I get all of his pertinent student data, his ID number, gender, grade, special ed 504 LEP status. Here I have the subjects that he could potentially be tested in, and all the way across I have all of the different categories and subcategories for accommodations. Right here is the math accommodation that I put in. If you look all the way across, it does line up with math. Supplemental aid, and I'm going to move the screen over now so you can see this, but those notes that I put in for math show up on the chart. So if you make notes, they will be available to you on this particular report. Now, what you probably want to do with this report is use this as a way to verify that your accommodations have been input correctly and that they look good prior to a test. Now, what I'm about to say is a recommendation, and then if Lisa wants to step in and either validate or alter it a little bit, that's her prerogative because she's the boss here. What I normally tell people to do is a couple of weeks prior to testing, you stop automated uploads of accommodations, and you lock out anybody in a specialist role. You don't want to do anybody doing electronic changes at that point, because the worst thing that could possibly happen is all of you guys have your test set up and somebody starts making changes to a kid, right?
That never happens in this district. No. Ever.
Now, on the off chance that you needed to have an ARD, an emergency ARD, maybe you've got a new student to the district and it's a couple of days before the test. This is where you would have two pieces of documentation. First, you've run this report 2-3 weeks prior to testing, and you handed it to somebody who is the expert in that area, be it the 504, special ed, or LEP person, and they've checked your work. They've gone through it, they've looked at it, they can verify, yes, these are correct, and they've signed the document to say, yes, your work looks good. So you have that. Then, as an ARD happens, whoever's in charge of the ARD submits the paperwork to you like they probably do prior to all this electronic stuff, and you take that ARD paperwork and you staple it to this report. Now you have documentation that you received the accommodations, and hopefully the act of stapling to the report is a verification that you did go back into Test Hound and actually put those accommodations in. Now you do need to make sure you put them in though. At that point, you're good to go. You've taken care of acknowledging the new accommodations. You've put them in system. The student is taken care of. Hopefully, you're not going to have any issues. But that's the reason why you stop the electronic submissions. Because if somebody's going in behind you and changing things electronically, you won't get an update. You wouldn't know. Now, this report is great, and it helps. But there's some other ways to verify accommodations that I'm going to show you here in just a bit. But let's do a couple of other reports first. Let's look at the master schedule. Oh wait, actually, you know what? There is one thing I want to show you on master accommodations. If you wanted to print out just your 504 kids, note that you can select just 504. You can select just special ed. You can select LEP. Normally, it's just set on all accommodations. If you want to run your entire population of 504, do any of you have maybe some 504 kids that don't have accommodations? Okay, so maybe you want to verify all of that. The only time you would ever select include students with no accommodations is if you choose one of the subpopulations, okay? And if you do that, it'll give you all your 504 kids or all your LEP kids, all your special ed. Otherwise, you want to leave that box unchecked, because if you do that and have it set like this, if you do all accommodations and include all students, it's going to give you every student on the campus, which for some of you would be a very large report. Okay, now let's go back to master schedule. This is probably going to be more beneficial for your middle and your high schools, but we'll see. I'm going to include their homeroom, which may make this time out. I'm going to get rid of their student ID, generate this report, and I'm going to run this one in, I could run it in Excel. Yeah, let's do that. We'll run it in Excel. Okay. So you run this report in Excel, and it's got the homeroom. You can do a sort by that column, get all the kids sorted by their homeroom, hand this report out or email this report to the teachers and say, hey, make sure that all of your students in your homeroom class know where to go for testing. They'll have the day of the test, the type of test, and the location. If you're at a high school campus or a middle school campus and you want to post this now, as long as you take off that student ID, you can put it on the edge of on the windows in the library, at the end of the admin building. You can probably even staple it to a couple of freshmen's heads, although that probably won't help them get to the test any faster. There's always that like 5 or 6 kids that are walking around going, I don't know where to go. Okay, let me help you. That was a conservative trying to be nice estimate there. Multiply that by about maybe 10 and we're getting closer. All right, master schedule. No, not master schedule, teacher schedule. So I know, because you guys are on top of things, I know that none of your teachers ever have trouble knowing where to go on test day. But in the off chance that they did, because I never saw that, you could print this report, you could email it to them, put it in their mailbox, put it on the teacher's lounge door. Now, staple it to their heads as well. I don't know. I've supervised some pretty ornery teachers. I don't know. I wouldn't do that to some of them. All right, form letter. I like this one. So the form letter. You've got retesting coming up. And you want to make sure that the kids that are getting retested have had this information communicated to them effectively. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to select their homeroom again. I'm going to say, Dear so-and-so, congratulations. You have an additional, I can't spell additional, testing opportunity. Yay. And when we, got to go to the top, generate that report, it's going to go through, it's going to pull all that information together, and it's going to give you these letters that you can hand out. And it prints in order of their homeroom, so you can run all the homerooms together. Let's just bring that up in PDF format so you can see. You can run these, all these reports can be run in PDF, Excel, or Word format. Some of them you'll find you like better in one format than another. But see, here you go. Dear Andrew Rigg, congratulations. You have an additional, and it shows the days that this person is testing and the days that they're not testing. So now you can do 2 things. You can run this. You can fold them up, tape them, put the kid's name on them, and have the teacher hand them to them. Or you can do a mail sort. You can put these in envelopes, put the little sticker on them, send them out, and mail them to the parents. And this part's already done for you at this point. If you're at a high school, you can take advantage of all that nice student labor and get somebody to do it for you. All right, now I just have to figure out, because I just messed up, where is the exit? F11? Yeah, there we go. All right, I have to remember that. All right. And then if I want to make it big again, bam. Okay, so let's go back. All right. Pardon me as I maneuver, guys. Trying to show you these in different formats is a little interesting with the full screen feature. All right, the next one that I'm going to show you is the material control form. Now, you have used a different material control form, and that one is totally valid. This one is also validated by TEA. This is accepted by TEA. We're working on, by the way, at least I did not tell you this, we do have the traditional form coming for people that want to stick with the traditional form. However, we don't know what ETS is going to request. But the one that Pearson suggested, we're going to have that one available for you probably in the next series of updates. So I'm thinking like in a month or so. In the meantime, check out what our users have dubbed the Wonder Form. And they've dubbed it the Wonder Form because it wonderfully aggregates a lot of information all into one form for you. Okay, so here we go. Lots of stuff. Name of the test, room number, administrators in the room. If you assigned them a booklet number, that is going to be there. I just didn't assign a teacher a booklet number. We've got our start and stop times for the group, so when they get in there, when they take their break, etc. We've got seat numbers, we've got ID numbers, names, grades, versions, forms, booklet numbers, present, absent, relocated to. But that's not all. There's more.
Just another question.
Yes.
Is the ID, will that be the local ID or the Beams ID?
Local, I believe. Local.
This is also going to be really important. We have a improvement plan that was put into place for basically participation of students on our test. And on our current seating charts from the state, it does not have a place for us to mark if they're absent or present, vice versa. So on the wording for the document sent in by us to the state, we will have to specifically identify if a student is absent and not in the testing room. This printout right here does it for you, so there's not an additional piece of paper that we have to send out or require or give out on the days of testing. It has the present and absent boxes, and as long as in test training you work with your teachers to identify that if a student is absent, they have to mark that. That will suffice for the state, because we will have to turn all of those in for documentation showing for participation specifically at the high school, but it includes the whole district. But our current seating charts and rosters don't have that option that are provided by the state. So this actually meets two specific roles for our district.
Okay. So let's go look at that little seating chart right there. So you can take those numbers and you can place them on this chart wherever you need them. So you don't have to put the kids in order by number. You just put where they sat in the room. Do you guys do anybody here, do you do continued testing where like some of the kids at the end of the testing session move from one room to another? I'm seeing some people nodding heads. Okay, so if you do continued testing where students move from one testing room to another where they finish the day, you're gonna need 3 copies of this document. You take 3 copies of this document, you put it in their tub. Testing day happens, they come in, they grab their tub, they're going through all their materials, they take the first copy of the sheet, they mark materials out, and at the very bottom here you can see there's a spot for them to sign, date, and for you to sign, or whoever might be the person that is signing out the materials can sign for you in that case. So that first copy then goes into your records, you hold on to that one, and the tub goes out with the teacher. Magic of testing happens, yay, everything is hopefully done by that point. The teachers come in, they're bringing their tubs. So they bring their tub in, they go through, they verify with you or whoever is accepting materials that all the materials are indeed there, everything is good. They will then check materials in and sign and date and etc. Now if they had continued testers, they're not going to give you 2 forms, they're still going to just give you the 1 form. The continued testers form is going to need to go with those students to the continued testing room, right? And so on the form that says materials in, you're going to have on this column right here, let's say that we had the first 3 students, Abigail, David, and Raven, Kevin, David, and Abigail. Those 3 students were continued testers. So on this form, those 3 students are relocated to room 102. All right. The copy of the form that is called continued testers goes with them and also says 102. And now we know that they were sent to room 102. When those materials come back in at the end of the day, all the continued testers are probably going to be in the same room or the same 2 rooms. And then you can check those materials in. And I want to note that you don't have to wait until the continued testers' materials arrive before you start scanning materials to boxes, because the system is going to track every single book. It's going to know if you got those books in, and if you don't have them in the system, it's going to tell you where they are. So you'll know. So once again, if you're doing continued testers, 3 copies. One other thing, does anybody here like to do individual stop times for the kids? A couple of people do, I'm seeing some. So what I've seen some people do on this form is instead of just recording the continued tester rooms, What they record on the form is continued tester room and stop time. So in this case, the first 3 students, it would say relocated to room 102, and then everybody else on the sheet would have their stop times. Then when you get to the continued testers room, those 3 kids' stop times would be recorded on that spot as well. So that's one way that you can keep up with individual stop times. If you'll give me just one sec, I'm going to, I'll have this down by the time I get out of here today. All right, let's close that out and come back for another one. All right. Now, the next document is probably another one of the most important pieces of documentation you can have. And this is the room accommodations report. I'm going to run this in PDF format, show you this one. All right. What this document does is it gives you a record of every single student in the room that has an accommodation. Not only does it tell you that they have an accommodation, it tells you specifically for this test what those accommodations are. Now, it may be that, for example here, Jonathan Bastilla. Maybe Jonathan has multiple accommodations in multiple tests. But right now, the only accommodations that matter are the algebra accommodations, the math accommodations. So that's all that's going to show up for this particular test. Note that all 3 kids are there, and if I put notes, the notes also show up on the report. So this is one more place that if you put special notes that you want people to see, it's going to show up on that page. Also note, it tells you which teacher, it tells you which room, and at the very bottom, there is a place for them to sign. So what you do with this is you print out 2 copies and you stick it in the tub. When they come to pick up their materials, they give you the materials out form and they sign and date a copy of this, which you also sign and put in your records. The other copy goes out with them during testing. The other copy is there for them to reference, to make sure that they apply the appropriate accommodations to every child that needs it. So hopefully what this is going to do is it's going to reduce or eliminate kids not getting their accommodations or not getting them given to them appropriately. In an imperfect world like the one we live in, what it's going to do is it's going to strengthen your documentation that you did the right thing. Because now if a teacher does not give the appropriate accommodations, but they have the sheet with them and they signed, it's a different conversation now. It's no longer a you didn't tell me. It's a why didn't you do what you clearly communicated that you understood? And guess whose fault it's not? Can't be yours. Okay. I will slowly get this. All right. One more report here. I am going to kind of highlight, we do have, for some people want a dedicated room roster, a dedicated attendance form, and a dedicated start-stop form. Those are there for you. All of that's on the on the material control form, but they're there for you in individual format if you like those. But let's get to the last piece that some people I hear are actually creating like on their own. Well, now you don't have to. Check this out. You set up the test, these are automatically ready to go. You take this, you print it out, and you can stick these on the booklets. And this is one more way for you to verify because it's got the child's name, it's got the test, it's got the child's ID number, their grade, the room that they're in, and the book number. So you take this and you stick it on the book and you go, oh, book number, okay, is this the right one? Yep, good to go. And you keep going. You do that until you get all of them stickered up. Now, what usually happens is, because when I see teachers, generally when you watch a teacher grab the booklets to hand out to the kids, this is what happens. So the teacher goes up to the tub and they grab the booklets, and this is what they do. They grab them like this and they start handing the booklets out. I rarely see people grab them like this. It's almost always like this because this is the way people hold books, right? So people hold the books. So the question is, where do you place the sticker? What have you guys done in the past for the people that use them?
It's been on their own.
On their own?
We all top them on the name line.
On the name line? Okay. So now I'm going to tell you both locations that we recommend, and I'll tell you why I personally used one particular method. Neither method is necessarily better than the other. It's just I noticed something that was happening with my kids. So you can either put them on the front of the book, but on the front of the book, there's a spot for the kids to sign their name. You can't put it in the spot where the kids sign their name because the kids do still have to sign. So it needs to be either above it or below it, but not on the actual line itself. My experience with the high school kids, and this is just my experience for what it's worth, is that the high school kids, they would look at that and they would go, well, my name is there. I don't have to sign. And you know, there's always those stubborn ones in the room that even though you go, come on, just do it, they go, no. Okay. Strangely enough, when we would put the label on the back, we had less of that. I don't know why, just thinking around the high school kids, who knows. So what we would do is that we would put them on the back, and we would actually put them, if the barcode is running right here, we would put them perpendicular. There was a reason for that. Remember how I said that the teachers grab the books like this? If the barcode's this way and the label is this way, the teacher can now look at that and start handing them out. It's one way that you can take a little bit of stress off of your teachers, because let's face it, this is not something that they really wanted to do, and I guarantee you they didn't sign up to be a teacher so they could do testing. So it's one way to kind of take a little bit of the pressure off of them. Having done this for multiple years, back when we had to create these by hand, I can tell you that, Robert E. Lee is a 5A high school. It took a little bit of work to get these done, but in all honesty, with the work that it saved us, without having to argue with a parent who goes, why did you give my child the wrong book? Without having to deal with an upset 11th grader or 10th grader that's coming in going, this is not my stuff, why are you trying to hold me to this? It cut down on all that. And it was worth the time that we had to spend to do it. I could definitely tell you some other stories, but what I would say is if you guys talk to coordinators around the state, if you run into anybody else from another district that's using Test Town and has for a while, ask them what they do and why they do it. And I'm pretty sure that anybody that's used this for a while is going to go, I love it. This is exactly what we do, and this is why. And most of the people that are hesitant about the sticker idea, after they've done it a little while, they go, you know what, it's not as bad as I thought. And it's definitely going to help you eliminate some of those issues. I did not state one little tiny caveat, though. On the back of the book, what can you not cover up with the sticker? Got to make sure you don't cover up the barcode. So you can put it pretty much anywhere. We put it kind of perpendicular to the barcode. Okay. Now, one last thing about printing these. This is kind of important because if you don't follow my instructions, you're going to end up like one testing coordinator I had where she spent like 4 hours trying to print one sheet, and it wouldn't format, and she wasted multiple pages. Let me show you what it does. I'm going to click print, if I can click on print. And watch this. See that little fit to page option? Sometimes, depending on your setup, that's automatically selected. Watch what happens. Sometimes it's called fit to page. Sometimes it's called shrink to print, fit to print. There's lots of ways that they name it.
We don't have any of that issue with Scantrons ever.
So since you guys don't have any experience in this, it's brand new, just remember to not select that option because you don't want to mess up the formatting. It is already ready to go the way that it looks. If you do that, you're good to go. All right. Now, before we start doing the hands-on piece, there's one last thing that we need to look at, and that is scanning the booklets to the boxes. Last major piece here. So to do that, you go Materials, Scan to Boxes, and then I'm going to show you two ways to scan these booklets in. One way is to do this. You just simply select a box. And let's see, which one did I start with? I started with this one. Okay. So you select a box. And you start scanning. So you go. That's a good scan. That's a good scan. Notice that the boxed number right here increases every time I scan one. If I scan one twice, it's not going to do anything. I'm scanning the same one. So how many times are you going to scan the same book? Probably not that often. What are you going to do? You're going to be in your room, and you're going to grab that booklet, you're going to scan it, and what's the next thing you're going to do? Stick it in the box. Grab a booklet, scan it, stick it in the box. Booklet, scan, stick in the box. However, we know that when you're doing things, people come in and talk and mess you up. So if somebody comes in and you've scanned the booklet, you're going to want to talk to them. And they're going to start a conversation, and you're going to be like, oh my gosh, I know, I heard that loud explosion out in the back. Somebody's car just imploded. I have no idea what's going on. And the next thing you know, you've walked away and you left that booklet sitting on the corner of a table, but you already scanned it. And you already told the system that you put it in a box. And where is it going to be at the end of the day? Well, it might eventually make its way into a box, but it might not. So the process needs to be that no matter what happens, if you are scanning booklets, somebody walks in, you've scanned a booklet. Stop, hold on just one sec. Let me take care of this real quick. You drop it in the box, now you can talk. As long as you follow that procedure, you're good to go. You're not going to have any problems. Now, you can scan the booklets in whatever order you want. So you know how you used to have your teachers put the booklets in order? Well, some of you did. And you remember how some of your teachers just wouldn't put them in order no matter what? Well, technically now, and I don't know what Lisa's going to say on this one, but I'm going to tell you that at least from our end, it doesn't matter, so it's up to you. As long as you scan every booklet, they're there. And you're going to have a report that tells you which booklets are in which box. And if you're missing a booklet, which is why the scanning out of order doesn't really matter, you're going to know because it can tell you, oh, you didn't scan this booklet, and it was booklet from room 102. Oh, wait a minute. That's one of the kids that we sent to room 504, and they're now they're finishing up testing. Those are the extended testers or something like that. So let me scan a couple more, but I'm going to do a different way. I'm going to switch to what's called batch mode. And we have a couple of people who really like this one because when you get the boxes in, most of them come in their tub that they were in, right? Like it's room 101 and room 102 and room 103. So some people like this because then they can see which rooms are complete as they're doing it. So I've got room 101. I'm just going to start scanning some in here now. So they scanned a bunch of them in, and then they hit submit. And now we know, okay, we missed one book. That's, I can tell you by the look of that book that is our student that had the alternate test type. And he was a continued tester, so that's why his room isn't in there. His booklet isn't in there right now, something like that. Let me show you what that report looks like, though. Let's go back to inventory. So you see that little question mark right there? That's missing booklets. If I click on that, it gives me a list of all of the students whose booklets have not yet been scanned. And right now it's pretty large. It also gives me a list of booklets that don't have any data. Where are those booklets? Those are the unused materials. So, maybe at the end of the day you scan those in before you scan the students. Maybe not. Maybe those are the last things that you scan in. But you know where those are because you never let those out of your room. Consequently, if you have a teacher booklet, it'll show you that it's a teacher and it'll tell you the teacher's name as well. Now, what's going to happen is this is going to start out, if you click on this at the beginning of the morning before you've scanned booklets in, you're going to get every booklet from that line, right? Because everything's missing till it gets scanned in, technically, if you want to look at it that way. But at the end of the day, as you're scanning things in, that list should get smaller and smaller and smaller, and hopefully you're going to get it down to one or two kids, and then you're going to go, oh, those are my continued testers. You scan those in, and you're good to go.
Scanning to the boxes, can you scan on the unused materials? Can you scan the barcodes on the sheet?
Yes, and actually, I'm glad you brought that up because sometimes I forget to tell people that. So when it comes to the unused materials, you can scan those packets in complete. So just scan the first and the last barcode on each packet, and it'll bring those packets into your boxes. Don't open them if you don't have to. So, all right, let me get out of this. And let's go back to materials, scan the boxes. All right, I'm going to stay in regular mode now because you've seen batch mode. And I'm going to cheat real quick. And this is going to look like what you would do if you were scanning in the barcodes. So I'm going to select box 1. I'm in box 1. And I'm going to scan the first barcode on a packet. And it automatically, notice how the new field came up. It knows what barcode you're scanning. It knows what type. So now, whoops, I scan the second one. And now I've put all of those booklets into that particular box. Now, I scanned an entire range, and technically you can do that. If you've got multiple packets that are unused and they're in the sequence, you can do that. But a lot of times, they're not always in sequence at that point. Let's go to box 2. I'm going to go to box 2, and I'm going to start scanning. All right, I just made a mistake. What mistake did I make? It's a I do this mistake all the time when I'm training. Sometimes on purpose, sometimes this time it was on purpose. Usually it's by accident. I chose box 2. Has that ever happened to anybody in here? Probably not. Okay, so if you accidentally scan, so I've already put them in box 2. But I didn't hit select, and so it never actually changed over. I can fix that very easily. I'm going to select box 2 now. Now it says box 2, and I'm just going to go back and rescan. Okay. Now, if I look at those booklets later, if I look at a report, it's going to show me that I originally scanned them into box 1 and then moved over into box 2. No harm, no foul. You're good to go. You can move on to the next box. I'm going to put another box here just so we have some extra data to look at. So let's do this real quick. Last one. Okay. So you've created your boxes, and at this point, I believe for you guys, every district does things a little bit differently, but you guys are familiar with these stickers, right? Okay, so you're still going to put these on your boxes, and you're going to send them back to the district. Do you guys pick them up, or do they ship them to you, or how does that happen?
Non-scorables, we pick up for them.
Okay, all right, so they'll come pick those up. Let's look at what happens at their level now, because that's really the last step. So we're going to go back to district level, and now we are a district level administrator doing a district box. So what they'll do is they'll select their administration. They'll create a new district box by going to whichever campus it happens to be. And they know how many district boxes they're going to create. They know where they're at number-wise. And so they're going to choose campus box 1. This might be district box 57 at this point. And then they're going to go over to that shipping label that you already stuck on the box, and they're going to scan it. And you're good to go. You can put notes if you need to. Otherwise, it's created. Do that one more time. We'll create a new one. We'll choose box 2. This is box 58. I hope I scanned the right barcode this time because I don't remember which one I scanned. Submit. There we go. Probably did the same one. That's okay. All right. So that's what happens after they leave you. Now you guys know what to do. It's pretty simple. All right. We are now to the hands-on part, and everything that we do now is going to affect how we get out of here. I don't want anybody walking out of here that does not feel like they understand what to do. So we're going to kind of walk everybody through several steps. I'm going to walk you through creating a test, and that's going to mean we're going to have to create some other pieces as well. And once we do that, when Lisa is ready to let everybody go, if anybody else wants to stick around because they've got additional questions, I am here until you're done with me. So if you have a question and you're not sure about something, don't let me go until I answer your question. Okay? Yeah.
I want to tell them that.
Okay, go ahead.
while you guys are getting logged into Test Hound, we have summer school, and we have kids that roll over from every campus for summer testing. And at elementary, we had our fifth graders going to take fifth, basically reading this past year, but it'll be reading and math this next year. We've got eighth graders, and then we have high school students. This past year, we had to do all kinds of background, rosters, who's testing, whatever. This system allows you to enroll your kids into a separate campus. So we would have the summer school campus set up, and you would enroll your kids over there. That way everything is already done for the kids, so we're not recreating rosters, recreating SPED rosters, recreating 504 list for kids who need to be over there. Basically, you'll enroll your kids, and then we'll get direction on what NIF on the report that you would turn in to show that your kids are there and that all the accommodations have been verified for your SPED kids. Whereas I can tell you on the high school level, the test coordinators came and spent many hours with us over there making sure kids were in the right classes, that things were running right, kids had the right test being given to them and stuff like that. Whereas if everything's kept up to date all year long and we enroll them in their summer school site, then that information's already in the system and we're not recreating the wheel over and over and over again.
All right. So everybody is logged in? No? All right. For those of you that aren't logged in, if it's some issue of a password, if you have gotten to the point that you're locked out, we can reset your password. If you haven't gotten a password yet, check the spam filter or the junk folder in your school email. Your username is your school email. So use your district email as your username.
Dora, try again.
Okay, I just have one question. So I have around 350, 360 SPED kids, and am I gonna have to go one by one and enter their accommodations?
And you're going to do spread the CSV file, and we're going to upload that.
Okay.
And every ARD after that, you'll log into the system and you'll update it while you're in the ARD.
Okay,
Does that make sense?
yes. I'm just wondering if we have that in an Excel file somewhere that we can convert to,
I will tell you based on the summer testing, it's probably not accurate, but maybe I'm wrong. I mean, I could be completely wrong.
okay.
I'm thinking you can do that, so I just have to go to test.
Mine doesn't work. I don't know what I'm doing wrong.
Password or user? What's your use for your username?
One little word here. A couple of people are having trouble getting into district email. I'm not sure what's going on that one. I think they're going to look into it. Be very careful if you're copying and pasting your password. If there is a weird symbol at the beginning, or maybe a period or a parentheses or something, copy the whole thing, because that period at the end of the password is actually part of the password, or that parentheses at the beginning is actually part of the password. and it will mess you up and lock you out if you don't. You got one, didn't you? Yeah, a couple of you did. And I appreciate you guys' patience. When we have this many people, it takes a little while to get everybody logged in, but once we get everybody set, we're good to go. Still having some issues? Oh, you're good. Okay, you're good. It is running slow, isn't it? That's another thing to note. So
I just went to testhound.com.
So let me mention this as well. You should go to testhound.com, not www.testhound.com. If you put the www in, sometimes it takes you to our old portal. I don't know why. And when you click on login, the address should actually change to, let me see if I can show you. Oops, sorry about that, guys. The login should change to tx.testhound.com. So if you click on login and it doesn't become tx.testhound, it's not the right page.
The other thing while y'all are getting logged in, the specialist role, that's what it is called, right?
Yes,
The
specialist.
specialist role, they basically they only can get in and help add the accommodations. So if you have 504 administrators or special ed administrators or someone who just is going to be doing accommodations, they don't need access to all of the stuff involved in the testing side. If you will email me that information that you just want these people to be specialists, we can go in and change their role for you. But once we change it, they won't see all the testing part, just the accommodations. Am I correct?
Yes. Well, I think at this point they can still see some of those pieces, but they can't do any changes. They can't make any changes. Yeah. Eventually, I think on the next upgrade, we're going to make it so they can't even see the other pieces, but right now, they can still see it. Okay. Are we getting a little closer to having everybody logged in? Okay. And remember, guys, for changing that password, copy and paste. Copy the whole password and paste it. I'll give you about another maybe minute, and then we're going to go ahead and move forward. Get you in? Okay, good. Perfect. Awesome. Great. Pretty good. All right, everybody's good back here. Okay. Oh. Okay. Okay. All right, once again, in keeping with trying to get you guys out of here on time, I'm going to go ahead and step forward to the next piece. If you have not reset your password, please do so now. And one thing to note on resetting your password, you have to have at least one non-alpha numeric character, which means it needs to be not a number and not a letter. £, ampersand, exclamation point, something like that crazy password that you just got a little while ago. And remember to click on account, change password, and copy and paste the crazy password in so you don't have to type it. So the first thing is make sure that everybody has that password reset. While you're resetting the password, I'm going to remind everybody else to click on settings. And if you haven't done so right now, I want you to make sure that you select the box there for email me when someone posts in a topic I have created, and email me when a new update is posted. On the My Account tab, under Change Password. At the very bottom there, it says Settings.
Are the updates posted by you guys?
I'm sorry?
Is this, regarding updates posted by you, the company?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so anytime that we get a communication from TEA, Pearson, or ETS, if it's something that will affect Test Hound and how you use it, we'll post it here. Okay. All right, let's go ahead and move forward. Remember, guys, updates, that's where we're going to communicate with you. You don't want to have to log in to see all that. Discussion board, how long did I tell you that we would generally wait before we respond? 24 hours. Now, during the week of testing and during the day of testing, pretty much immediately. We'll have people on all day long. Oh, that's great. Let's see. Help tab. Now, I know everybody's kind of floating around in different places. I'm going to ask everybody to kind of refocus and make sure that you're where we all are. The user manual. Well, that pretty much gets it. There we go. All right. Thank you, guys. So, Test Hound user manual. Where are you going to put that? Put it on your desktop somewhere. All right. The other thing is, after we record that session in about a month, month and a half, we're going to place it up here. So if you don't make it to the online refresher course, we're going to post it here so you can watch it. Okay. All right, first thing I want you guys to do, let me get down to the campus level so I can see the same thing you do. All right, right now, you probably, most of you, unless you've already kind of done this, you've probably got some student alerts and some teacher alerts. What I want you to do right now is I want you to click on View. And here, let me make my screen full screen again. Okay. Click on View. And I want you to approve all. Approve all. I want you to just accept all the student changes. So you're going to click View, you're going to click Approve All, and then you're going to click Confirm. Okay, you know what? I forgot that we've got multiple people from same campus. So let's do this. Choose a lead person from this point on that will actually make changes in the system for you. You haven't messed anything up, so don't worry. But I'm glad that we brought that up now, because what's going to happen is in just a bit, we're going to have to set up a test. And some of you have the ability to set up tests at the same campus. So really, let's just have one person setting up tests. All right. Let me run back on this so that you can see how I got here. All right. If you click on Home, you're going to get your alerts. Right here, you click on View, right here where the alert is. Click here to approve all and confirm. Same thing for your re-enrolled students. If you have some of those, you probably don't at this point, but who knows? Basically, I want you to go through all of those alerts and approve everything. I want your screen to look like that before we move forward. Question? So what's going to happen is when you do that approval, it's going to pull them off, and then they'll be gone. Yeah. Now, I'm glad that you brought that up. Let's talk about that really quickly. So she went looking through her student file prior to making the approval, and what she saw was she had a number of students that were marked yellow. They were highlighted yellow. If you don't approve a student to be removed from your campus, and remember, you can do that individually. If you don't approve a student, they'll stay in your system, but they'll be highlighted yellow, which means your system says they're gone. But remember, if you have some students that you know are going to be campus hopping and you don't want to have to pull them out of the system, we give you that ability to leave them in there. It's not hurting anything. You're going to have to remember, but we remind you, hey, this student your system says is no longer at your campus. So you can leave them there if you want. On the opposite side of that, before you approved all of your students, I think most of you, all the students were green. Now they've gone to white. So when you get new students that you haven't approved yet, they'll show up on the list as green. Okay. Everybody look at your teacher file. Click on teachers. Right there on the top left-hand side, click on teachers. I bet you on this very first page, you can probably find somebody that doesn't belong on your campus. Let's go ahead and delete a teacher or two. You're not hurting anything. If you need to add them back in, what do? Activate and type in their name. So pick a couple of teachers and delete them real quick. Some people that you know are not on your campus. Also, one little thing to note here, in a lot of these screens, there's a little drop-down menu called View. If you select View All, you'll be able to see every single person that falls in that category. All right, I got a question here really quick. Let's see what we got. We need to do one other thing before we can move on. I want you to think of, and this might not work for everybody, but I bet most of you have worked at your campus for at least a year, most of you, and you have that sub that you know you're going to use. So I want you to, and if you haven't worked at your campus for at least a year, but you've got somebody with you that has, find a sub that you can add into the system. Now, you can always delete them later, so if you want to make a fake one right now, that's fine as well. Put somebody in the system. Create a teacher slot. If you want to make a fake person, just come up with a fake ID number. No problem in that. This is just practice. You click on New, and then type in their information. I'll give you guys just a few seconds to create a teacher. One other thing, guys, when you're creating these, you see that available box? If you don't click available, what's going to happen is you're not going to be able to see them in the teacher drop-down when you're assigning people. So on this person that you've already created, if you forgot to click available, just edit them and make them available. That way you can see what it does. Okay. right, let's move forward here, guys. Okay. Let's move forward to rooms. We're going to skip students for the moment. Click on the rooms field. And I saw some of you guys getting ahead. You were that student. I saw you. You were getting ahead. You clicked on rooms. And some of you already pulled rooms. That's fine. It's not a big deal. I try to avoid that because sometimes people change things that I don't want them to change. But here, I want you to click this little option here called pull. You see that pull that I've highlighted? Click pull and submit. And what it's going to do, you're probably going to get a list of rooms if you haven't done this yet. It'll give you a big long list of rooms. You submit that list of rooms, and now they'll be available to you to put students in. Now, before you go any further, I want you to click View and All, and I want you to look at that list. Does that list look good? Does that list look fairly accurate and complete? And, remember, everybody's got a slightly different look to their list. At the very top of the screen, once you've pulled them all, but let me see what you've got here. So you've got, do me one more, do that for me one more time. Click pull.
Click pull. I didn't want to log in.
I need to make note of something here really quick, and this might be the thing that you guys are running across. Are you guys in an elementary? And you're not seeing any rooms? Okay, so, and you're at elementary? Okay. So, elementaries, there's probably a commonality here. And this is something that I kind of expected, but I usually kind of let it play out and see how it goes. Part of the reason that we do this is so that we can see what your data looks like, and it's kind of hard to check everything. And we're finding out now that something that's very common at elementaries is that, you know, I take it back to when I was in elementary. When I was in elementary, my my kindergarten teacher was Miss Stroman. And she was in the room that she was in, and that was Miss Stroman's room. And it was Miss Stroman's room for 10 years before I got there, and probably 20 years after. And 5 years after she retired, it was probably still Miss Stroman's room, right? Now, in actuality, that room was probably like C102. Nobody called it C102. It was Miss Stroman's room. Consequently, on the schedule, it was probably written in as Ms. Stroman's room. Okay, now, this is where you're going to have to be nice to your PEMS clerk or coordinator. You're going to want to, take them some Starbucks, get them some chocolate or something. Because, and I'll talk to Lisa about this, but what's going to have to happen is they're going to need to go back in and fill some information into your system for you. They're going to need to attach rooms to those students' courses in your system. That will fix all this. And once again, this happens all the time, and everybody always fixes it. So if you don't have access to your rooms today, don't worry. I'm going to talk to Lisa about this, and later in the day, we'll probably start having that conversation with someone who can reach out to your PEMS clerks and get that fixed for you. So what we're going to do for today is I want you, those of you that are in those elementary campuses, we're going to go ahead and skip to the next step, and I just want you to do it maybe a couple of times instead of once or twice. I want everybody to think about places in your campus, nooks and crannies that you don't normally have on the schedule, where you don't normally have kids taking classes. And I want you to go ahead and create some of those rooms in the system. And for the purpose of what we're doing today, and it looks like I let my screen go to sleep, I want you to not put a room cap on them, especially at the elementary, because you might need to put a lot of kids in there for today. Okay? So let me go up to the screen. I'm going to put something on the screen so I can remind you of where to go, and then I'll walk around and answer some questions if people have questions. The big thing is, if you're at an elementary, you might want to create a couple of rooms. So remember, you're on Rooms, and then you're going to click New, and call the rooms whatever you would like. Okay. So that probably makes sense. In a couple of elementaries, they might have like 2 or 3 rooms, because they named their gym their music room and something else, but everything else is blank. So we need to go in and add those room numbers to the courses for the kids. It's going to be a lot of copy and pasting mostly, because a lot of those kids are in the same room for like 6 periods, and I think we're ready to move to the next spot. So let's kind of bring everybody back now. And we're going to, at this point, we've taken care of teachers, we've taken care of rooms, and you don't have any materials today, so what you are going to do is we're going to start setting up our test. And once we get in the test, I know we haven't put accommodations in. The reason that we haven't is once you get your kids in the test, we're going to do the accommodations from that screen so that you're working just with the kids that you're doing the test for, okay? That'll make sense once we get it set up. Now, if you are at a campus where there's multiple people from your campus in here, when you start this, everybody can, as long as you're not a specialist, if you're a campus user, there may be a couple of people that have multiple campus users, everybody can do a test on your campus. You just can't be doing the same test. So if there's, for example, an elementary here that has 2 or 3 campus users, everybody pick a different test. Does that make sense? And as long as you do that, nobody will be tripping over each other and we'll be good. So what I want you to do right now is I want you to click on tests. And when you click on tests, it's going to ask you which administration, and you're going to choose the Z-Star demo. And this might be in some cases where a few of you have something that needs to be checked. So at this point, if you're elementary, you should be seeing all of the tests that would normally pop up for an elementary STAR test. If you think that you're missing a grade, if you don't have access to 3rd grade or 4th grade or 5th grade, let one of us know, and the district administrators here can fix that for you. It's a very quick fix. If you're at middle school, you should have access to your 6th, 7th, and 8th grade tests, and likely Algebra 1, so make sure that you can see those things. And if you're at high school, you should have all the Algebra 1 and English and etc. Question?
If they're not correct, don't worry about it right now. It sounds like 8th grade writing.
Okay, so if they're not correct, I wouldn't worry about it right now at this moment, but we're definitely going to want to look at that before you leave today. So if anybody sees anything incorrect, stick around as we dismiss, and we'll try to get to you and fix that really quickly before you get out of here today. But for the purpose of trying to move forward here, I want everybody to pick a test, and we're going to start creating. So I'm going to go back to my algebra test because that's what I originally set up. And my first question for you, and this actually kind of works 2 different ways. If you're elementary and maybe middle school, how do you get kids in the test? You click on the plus sign for students. What do you choose? You want to add them, right? Right? And then where do you want to go? By what? If you're at elementary, you're going to add by grade. If you're at high school or middle school, you're going to add by course. Although technically, I think with the middle school kids, if you do by grade for the 6th graders, that'll still work for you. All right, so if you're doing by course, select the course that you chose. If you're doing by grade, you should already have clicked submit. I'm going to add mine by file just to be contrary. Okay, and now it's not going to work. Here we go. All right. Okay, elementary. We're going to have to do things slightly different today than we normally would. Because right now, most of you don't have courses associated with your period. So if you try to assign students by their homeroom, guess what? It's not going to work. So what I would do for you today is the thing that I would tell the high school people and most of the middle school people here in just a bit. I want you to go ahead, elementary, and assign your students, but instead of assigning by period, I want you to assign by, I don't know, what would work? You could choose a limit for today. Let's just practice. Why don't you put 25 kids in a room? If you want to choose your rooms ahead of time, you can. If you want to just pick some rooms, honestly, for today, it doesn't matter. If you're at the high school, you're not going to put kids in rooms first. What are you going to do? Take care of your accommodated, but we haven't done that yet, have we? Okay, so middle and high school, hold on just one sec. And if you're elementary and you've already assigned your kids, you're good. If you haven't, we'll get to that here in just a bit. Okay. Now, remember I told you that we were going to do accommodations once we got some kids in the test. And you'll note that those triangles are available there. So while you're working in the test, if you want to do an accommodation for a kid, you can click on their triangle. So this is what I want you to do. And I always ask people to write this down because if you forget it later, you're going to want to take it out. I want you to write down the names and maybe even the ID numbers for the first 3 kids on your page, the first 3. Write those down. And we're going to put in some accommodations for those kids. And when we get done today, as you get ready to leave, you're going to take those accommodations out. So write down their names and ID numbers. I'll give you about 30 seconds to do that. Because they haven't approved them yet. Yeah. Yeah. So a couple of you still have, I just want to make note, a couple of people still have yellow highlighted students. Remember that they're highlighted yellow because the system says that they're supposed to be removed from your campus. So if you didn't yet approve those kids, just make sure that you do at some point. Technically, those students should not be at your campus because your system has already said that they've checked out and gone to another campus. If you don't have any yellow highlighted students, then you're fine. Don't worry about it. If you're not sure how to approve, I can take you back through that a little bit later today. All right. Now that you've written down those 3 students' names and their ID numbers, what I want you to do is I want you to click on the triangle for the first student. And whatever test it is that you're doing, be it math, reading, writing, I want you to select that subject in their drop-down list, and I want you to give them an accommodation. So, for example, I'm doing a math test, so I need to choose math. So I've selected math, and now I'm going to put in an accommodation. I'm going to give this child oral administration, oral and signed. Now they are going to be in the oral signed administration group. Now, after you get the first student's accommodation done, I want you to go back to your test to make this easy to find the next student. Click on the test that you started setting up. I'm doing algebra, maybe you're doing 3rd grade math, maybe you're doing 5th grade reading. I want you to pick the second student on your list, and I want you to give that second student an accommodation by clicking on their triangle. And give them all the same accommodation. It's fine. I always tell people just choose oral signed administration because it's a very common one to use. So I'm going to go back to the subject that I'm in. I'm going to give this student oral signed administration. Well, they're already marked, so that's good. Once I get done with the second student, click back on tests again, and then go back to the test one more time, and let's do your third student. Take care of them. Click on that third student's triangle. Once you get to the accommodation screen, make sure that you choose the correct subject. And I'm going to give them the exact same accommodation that I gave the other one. All right. So at this point, you should be done or close to having taken care of 3 students' accommodations. So now we can continue with setting up our test. All right. So everybody should kind of be at the same step here. You need to have a room to put your accommodated students in, right? So how do we add a room to our test now? I heard a couple of people. You can add a room, And you can either do it by this little drop down or the plus symbol. If you click the plus symbol, you get a chart with all the notes. Okay. Now I need to filter my students so that I can get to just the students with the accommodation that I want to put in this room. How do I do that? You hit filter, and then what do you do there? Accommodation. Okay. And after that, I choose the accommodation. I decided I was going to set up my students as oral signed administration. Okay. And so now I need to put them in a room, and right now the only room that I have available is the conference room. You probably chose a different room. Just going to reassign those kids. Now, I put this up here because I kind of wanted to show you something. I have a room, and that room is now highlighted yellow. Why would that room be highlighted yellow? Yeah. Yeah, look at this. Capacity is 6. Now, I put that capacity there because, in all honesty, really, I don't normally want to put more than 6. But I know that in reality, if I have to, I can put one more. So I did. I forced an extra student in there. Now, if you're doing your homeroom assignment, or if you're doing the, there's one other way to do this, assigned by capacity, you can't overflow a room. But if you do this accommodation sort, you can. So we tell you, hey, wait a minute, look at this. You put too many kids in here. Are you sure you want to do that? I'm going to leave it. I'm okay with having one extra student there. Now, if you're at elementary, you've put your students into rooms. You've given your accommodated students a place to be. High school, we haven't done what we need to do with you yet. So we've got our students that we have accommodated into their room. What do we need to do now with the rest of the kids? Yeah, we need to put them in classrooms. Now, you're probably going to choose some rooms. Look at how many kids you have left. And I want you to, for high school and maybe even the middle schools, I want you to click on that plus symbol there. And I want you to add enough rooms to put, 20, 25 kids in a room. Just click down the list and add as many rooms as you need to. And once you get them all selected, hit submit. Okay? Once again, the way that I did that, I clicked on the plus symbol. And then I clicked on the rooms that I needed to add. Excuse me, sorry there. And then I hit submit. Okay. All right. Elementary, we're almost caught up with you guys. We're almost to the last step. We're getting close to being done, guys. There is going to be a pop quiz. If you fail, you'll have to come back on Friday. All right, who did the overly sarcastic ha-ha? I'm coming after you after this session, all right? Just going to let you know. All right, so high school and some middle school. How do I get the kids into the rooms now? Assign them by by capacity. There you go. We want to set the capacity of the room. All right, so I'm going to say let's put 25 kids in a room. Maybe you do something different. Once you choose that, you click submit. And now all of your kids are in their rooms.
How many task coordinators have drugged the Excel document down for room numbers and then gone down and counted? And then gone back and recounted because you forgot, you think maybe you dragged it too far when you fell asleep dragging.
You just reminded me about something. So everybody, I think, is at this spot. It's close to testing day, and you find out 2 or 3 days before the test that a room is no longer available. You can't use it because chickens are hatching in the room, and it's going to attract the boa constrictor. And we don't need kids ending up inside the boa constrictor. Yeah, I believe you. So what we're going to do is this. I want everybody right now to add one more room to your test. Add a new room. I don't care which room it is. Just pick a room, add it in. Okay. So add that room in, and once it shows up in your room list, we're ready to do one other kind of filter. I'm going to filter now, but what am I going to filter if I want to move all the kids from one room into another room? Exactly. I'm going to filter by room. So let's do that. I'm going to filter by room. I'm going to choose room, 101. And I'm going to move those students to the new room, which in my case happens to be 301. All right. So I filtered by room. I chose the room I wanted to get rid of. I picked the new room, and now, bam, all those kids are moved over. No more dragging and copying. And now I can remove that room from my test, and I'm good to go. Pretty simple. Okay, so there's still a couple of other things that we need to do here, and there's one thing I haven't talked about, and that's makeup tests, so we're going to talk about that in just a bit. But before we do that, let's see, we need to put some teachers in these rooms, don't we? Everybody put teachers in your rooms right now. If you've got a lot of rooms, I'd do 4 rooms. Let's go in there and let's put some teachers in these rooms so that you see what that looks like. On the very first room, add 3 teachers and then remove 1, just so you see what that looks like. So on the first room, add 3 teachers, then remove 1. I'm going to go ahead and put all of my teachers in rooms. Okay. Now, once you've done that, once you've placed all those teachers in the rooms, if you want to get back to all your rooms and see the test overall, you just click on all rooms, and it'll take you back to the top level. Okay. So, testing happens, everything is great, except that on test day, 5 students were absent. So now you have to do a makeup test. This is going to be easy. It's going to be really easy to do. You got 5 kids, you got 15 kids. I don't care how many kids you have. I'm just going to double check and see what my room looks like. All right, so I have a room that I have pre-selected as my makeup room. I know that I'm going to put my kids in there. And so what I do is when I set up my test, once I get everything set up, on test day, I add the makeup room to my room list. My makeup room happens to be room 301. What I want you guys to do right now is I want you to go to your room list, and I want you to create a new room called something MU for makeup. Create a makeup room. Choose any room on your campus and add a new version of it called 101 MU or 202 MU. Create a makeup room because we're going to do this together right now. This is really important because you know you're going to have some makeups. Define things that you want to upload. So here's my first question would be, in your system, can you still leave the original designation? This is the one that got closed and combined, right? But it still physically exists. So it previously had a number. Can your system maintain that number? Can y'all leave that number in there? That would be my first suggestion, would be if you can still leave them separate in your system. I've got several districts that have done that, and that's how they maintain that separateness.
Kevin wasn't there, but he just said call whenever y'all get finished.
Yeah, we need to get him paid today, so. Or we're not paying him today, though, right? We're just going to let him know that we've got a credit card. We're going to go ahead and pay him. Okay. And I'm getting voicemail. All right. Okay, being aware that we're less than 30 minutes away from 3 o'clock and we might be able to make it at 3, let's ask everybody to go back to their test. Find the test that you created, and I want you to add your makeup room into your test. Find your makeup room, add it to your test. Yeah, click on tests and then find the tests that you're working on. And then add your room. Now, once you've added your room, we need to, and guys, this is going to be completely arbitrary because this is a practice, right? Pick a room, and I want you to choose 2 kids out of that room, and I want you to take their room number. See that room number right there? You can move them individually. Place them in the makeup room. So this is day of testing, and I'm getting my attendance sheets coming in, and I'm seeing, oh, these 2 students were absent. I'm moving them to the makeup room that day. They are automatically going to be moved from the roster that they were originally on. So I'm going to go back to another room here. I'm going to pick another couple of kids that were absent that day. Jason Van Zant was absent. Let's move him. Makeup room. Let's see, Tia was absent, and Thais was absent. All right. So, one more kid just for good measure. All right. Once again, remember that when you're in the room's view, if you select all rooms, it takes you back to the top level. And you'll now see that I have 6 students in my makeup test. So attendance is done for the day. I know which kids were absent. I know which kids now need to attend my makeup test. If I click on that room, of course I should actually click on it. There's my 6 kids. If I need to have the attendance clerk reach out to these 6 kids, if they haven't already, now I've got a reminders list. Hey, make sure they show up tomorrow. Call them. Okay, there is one last thing I want to show you here, because if you're doing your makeup test, you're probably going to want your documentation for the makeup day to reflect the correct date, right? Okay, so there's one last feature I haven't shown you, and that's the configure feature on your toolbox. On the toolbox, if you click configure, everybody do that right now, click configure. And if you click configure, it shows the date. If you click in that box, it gives you a clickable calendar, and unfortunately, it might not always start out where you want it to, but right now it's starting out in July. I'm going to move this to the next day, because we're going to do our makeups the next day, because we're stubborn. Or maybe that's how it happens in real life. I don't know. I'm just going to assume that it doesn't work out that way. Who knows? Now, instead of saying July 20th, my test date says July 21st. I can now print out just for this room, and I do want to kind of take you back to the whole report process. Most of those have a room selection, and you can choose to print just the room that you need to look at. So I will just print out the makeup room roster, the makeup room accommodations, and the makeup room, I don't know, whatever. Do I need to print labels again? No, because these guys already have labels. I'm going to go take their booklets out, and I'm going to put them in this booklet, this tub for this room. Does that make sense? So you don't have to create a new administration for the makeups. You're just going to add a room called makeup, and you're good to go. Now, does it bother anybody that we changed the date, and it's in the system still like that? So you can, because of the makeup part. But here's the thing. Some of you are going to go, you know what? That bugs me. I want my electronic stuff to still look the same. That's okay. After your makeup test rosters are printed, what do? You just change it back. And you're good to go. So, we've taken you through setting up a test. We've taken you through the inventory process. We've taken you through creating rooms, through doing accommodations. We've taken you through setting up teachers. We've taken you through doing makeup tests and doing all the configurations and copy to pieces. At this point, you've basically gone through everything that Test Hound does. It was a lot, but you've got some time to kind of dwell on it, to kind of process it, and once again, to ask us questions if you need to. I've already kind of quizzed you, so I don't have to do the pop quiz like I told you I was going to do at this point. You're actually pretty much done as far as my part goes, other than one last thing that I need you to do, and I need you to do this before you start to talk to Lisa here. I want everybody to go back to their test, and I want you to take those 3 students that you put an accommodation in for, and I want you to take those accommodations out right now. So I'm going to do that right now with all 3 of those students. Go to math, get rid of those accommodations. I'm going to go back to the test because that's the easiest way to find them. Click back on that second kid, excuse me. Get rid of her accommodation. Now that one had multiples, so just kind of excuse that. Same thing here. Once you've taken out those accommodations, everything should go back to normal. It'll correct it. Yeah, it'll correct it.
Remove those.
So then go in and delete everything?
I mean, you can leave them for right now.
Okay.
Real.
Okay, when will that, so don't start working on this now then?
I wouldn't.
When should we start working on it?
Well, we're gonna get a CSV file for you guys and send it to you.
All right.
What's a CSV file?
The question is can we go ahead and start importing or putting in real special ed, 504, LEP, all of that? Please don't yet. We're gonna send you a file format. It looks, for most of you in the room, it looks like an Excel spreadsheet. It just has a different format at the end of it. It says CSV. So you will put all of your information in the columns that are designated, just like an Excel spreadsheet looks kind of. And then you'll save that and you'll send it back. And then we will upload those into the system for you, and that will put all of this information into Test Hound for you. That's where you've got some of the labor, to collect all that information, or have your special ed lead or special ed administrator come in and do that, and then get it ready for the upload. So that is what we initially will do, and then we can continue to do uploads. The one thing that I personally think, and we'll take feedback from all of you, but as the special ed administrator, or as the 504 administrator, or as the LPAC administrator sit in the meetings, they need to log into the system and make any changes or overrides to those accommodations as they're happening. That way everything stays current all the time. You're not waiting a 2-week lag or whatever it may be. If your administrators have specialist roles, if that's what you deem necessary, and they get in there and they help do that, in a meeting it's going to take 3 minutes at most to log in and make those corrections. Whereas if we collect all of that data for 3 weeks on a big campus, it takes hours to go in and continually upload. So that's why those administrators need to be trained on this system. We are working on a one system shot where we can open and it will do it and upload. We're not there yet. This is brand new to us, so we've got to work out the kinks and get the systems working. So that's the suggestion at this point.
So I am at this point basically officially done showing you new stuff, taking you through the system. If you want to stick around and ask me some additional questions, I will be here as long as people are here that want to talk to me. And if you're ready to be done with me, well then thank you for enduring me this day. I appreciate your time, and I look forward to serving your district and you in the next year and the years to come. Thank you.
I just want to take a second before we start questions. I just want to affirm them. We looked at several different systems. We tried to find something that we believed would work for all of our campuses and would give us the biggest bang for our buck and take work off of you that currently you're spending hours and hours and hours, some of our high schools, weeks doing, and we just thought that this would do a lot for you. If you're concerned or you have reservations or you don't know how this is going to look on your campus, you don't know what or when it's going to fit in, please contact me and we can sit down, or I can come out and we can talk and we can try to get something that will work for you, because obviously if it's not working for you, it's not doing any good. So if you are one of the people in the room and you have those feelings, or you don't know exactly what's going to happen or where or when, please contact me. Don't just sit on it, and we'll try to figure out what works best for your individual campus. If you need to go back and talk to your principal, your deans, the other administrative team, please do that. But we need to figure out something that works so that you have less stress and pressure, and it does what it needs to do on your campus. And at this point, again, I'd like to give a hand to our presenter today for doing such a great job. And if you haven't stood up in front of administrators and presented before, it's very, very difficult. We're always, there's a wide variety of us in the room, and trying to meet everybody's individual needs is difficult. You know that from standing up and speaking in front of your staff. But if you have individual questions, please stick around. If you don't have any individual questions, I just ask that if you could leave as quietly as possible, so that the people that want to hear the questions can hear all of the questions. But I definitely don't want to make you stay if you are good to go. Thank you guys again, and please send anyone that didn't come today that needs to on Friday. If you didn't sign in,